Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today we are going to be talking about a few smaller news stories, including Russell T Davies being asked a question on the next Doctor, we've got Joe Martin talking about potential return, and perhaps my favourite story of the bunch, we have police deciding to bring back the police box in order to fight crime. All that and more coming up. Feel free to sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest Doctor Who headlines. Also, feel free to subscribe if you're new, that would be greatly appreciated. I also have a cameo, so if you want a message from me, the link to that is in the top of the description. I've made it as cheap as possible, but of course, you don't have to. It's just, if you want to, it's there. But let's just get right into it. Doctor Who boss Russell T Davies gives a 6-word response to Ncuti Gatwa replacement. Now, immediately, I thought of the scene in Christmas Invasion when I read this title, but I have to say this is a lot more underwhelming than the title presents. Exclusive, Russell T Davies gave a simple response when asked who will be taking over as the next Doctor Who in the much-loved BBC series. A Doctor Who boss has teased what might be in store for the popular show. Doctor Who star Ncuti Gatwa stepped into the framed role in 2023, taking over the lead role of the Doctor after Jodie Whittaker bowed out. It has since been reported he is looking to leave the role behind after the 15th Doctor's second series airs later this year, sparking reports that the BBC plans to axe the show altogether. When asked about who the next Doctor may be while walking the purple carpet at the 2025 Gadio Pride Awards, the show writer spoke exclusively to Express.co.uk as he quipped, "What do you mean next Doctor? What are you on about?" And yeah, that is literally like all he says with regards to this, but they still managed to get a whole article out of this. A BBC spokesperson previously denied that the show will be getting axed, as they said, the story is incorrect, Doctor Who has not been shelved. As we have previously stated, the decision on Season 3 will be made after Season 2 airs. The deal with Disney was for 26 episodes, and exactly half of those are still left to transmit, and as for the rest, we never comment on the Doctor and future storylines. Bookmakers have speculated who could potentially replace Ncuti Gatwa with the former show star making a return. Lee Astley, spokesperson for Bet Ideas, said Ncuti Gatwa's tenure as Doctor Who appears to be coming to a premature end, and we reckon there's a firm chance BBC turn to David Tennant once again to try and steer the series back on track. And then, yeah, this is basically, we've talked about this before, the bookies saying that David Tennant is the favourite to succeed Ncuti Gatwa, which I don't think will happen. But yeah, essentially, Russell T Davies was at the Gadio Pride Awards, and essentially, he was packed by the Express, asked this question of who the next Doctor's going to be, to which he said, "What are you talking about, next Doctor? What are you going on about?" I think the thing I find funny about this is not necessarily his response, because realistically, what are you expecting him to say? But also, like, the fact that he was obviously at this award show that had very little to do with Doctor Who, but yet even still, he's like hounded with these questions, which look, to a certain extent I get. But the point I'm making is, it's just funny that he can't go anywhere without being asked questions like this. And I don't blame him for kind of just batting this question off. Obviously, we still don't know what's happening with regards to Season 3 yet, although I do want to give you some kind of like idea that maybe things aren't as gloomy as they may appear. If you follow recent streaming successes, you'll know that the recent TV show Severance has been going on and has been very successful, and has only just been renewed for a third series after its second series transmitted, despite being a massive success. So while I'm not going to say that that definitively will happen with Doctor Who on Disney+, I do think it's important to point out that it is fairly standard procedure for streaming things to not be renewed until the full thing is out. Obviously there are exceptions to that, and I'm not saying that it's impossible for there to be exceptions to that, but I am saying that it's not necessarily impossible at this point that Doctor Who could be renewed by Disney. And even if it's not, I doubt the BBC will cancel it. Elsewhere in the news, Joe Martin is always talking about Doctor Who return with Russell T Davies. Now this is arguably a bit more substantive, but we'll read it anyway. Joe Martin is ready to return to Doctor Who whenever the show calls for it. She tells Yahoo UK that she and the showrunner, Russell T Davies, are always talking about it, so it is possible. The Marlowe Murder Club star portrays the fugitive Doctor in the BBC sci-fi series, and she first appeared during Jodie Whittaker's tenure as the 13th Doctor. Martin became the second woman and first person of colour to take on the role in the show's history, and as her incarnation of the Time Lord from the Doctor's past, it gives the Doctor's possibility of her character coming back at any point. "She's great, I absolutely love her," Martin tells Yahoo UK of her character. "Of course I would return. I would be surprised if they never did anything else with me. I would be very surprised, so watch this space. But she's a great character, and I have a great time doing the Big Finish audio dramas for Doctor Who as well. That's always been great. Me and Russell always talking, so let's see. So yeah, very interesting. The thing I find interesting about this is that she says that she is in regular contact with Russell and watch this space. So whilst I was somewhat skeptical of the idea of Jo Martin returning having much weight beyond, kind of fandom speculation, I do think that this is a strong indication that she could be coming back sooner rather than later. Now, I do have my own opinions on this. I want to clarify, I think Jo Martin is great in the role, and I would have loved for her to actually be a main doctor, like a main TV doctor. But I think my issue with the idea of her coming back is the fact that if done in the wrong way, it could very, very much overcomplicate the narrative for less dedicated fans. Obviously, we know that this series was kind of intended as kind of a relaunch. Season 1 was kind of intended as this big reboot for the show, this big reboot for the franchise to clean slate and really freshen things up. And it arguably hasn't really done that. I mean, obviously, Sutek and things like that are very much tied to previous continuity, and obviously there's a lot of references to the 60th as well. But I just think adding the Fugitive Doctor in as well would just be another step in making this even more complicated for casual audiences. With that said, though, if they do it in a similar way to how she appears in Rogue, where she's basically just like a holographic projection of one of the Doctor's faces, something like that would be fine. Or if she existed in the Doctor's subconscious, akin to the Guardians the Edge Doctors at the end of Power of the Doctor. Something like that might work, but the idea of her being on screen at the same time as Gatwa, as cool as that would be to see, I think might be a step too far for some audiences. But if you disagree with me on that, feel free to let me know. This is a fun one. I saw a few people sharing this around yesterday, and I just had to share it. Police imitate Time Lords to catch local crime lords. Hertfordshire Force hope their Tardis will help exterminate town centre plague of theft and antisocial behaviour. Surging crime in Watford town centre has police looking to Doctor Who's Tardis for inspiration. Hertfordshire Constabulary has submitted a planning application for a new police box as part of a pilot scheme to combat a plague of theft, violent crime and antisocial behaviour. In a circularity that the time-travelling TV favourite would appreciate, the TARDIS itself was inspired by blue police boxes that protected Britain's streets until they were phased out in the 70s. If the pilot programme, which will run for 18 months, proves successful in preventing crime, other police boxes could soon join it across the town. Documents explained that the police box would work, as potential criminals couldn't be sure if it was occupied by an officer, making them less likely to carry out a crime. Plans from architecture firm Vincent and Gorbing claimed a similar police box installed in Boscombe, Dorset, led to a 35% reduction in crime and antisocial behaviour. Planning documents explained that a telephone providing a direct phone line to the county control room 24/7 for the public to use would also be installed, along with a defibrillator. A light on the roof will shine when the external phone is in use, and a small desk will be placed with chairs on opposite sides inside. The box will be bolted to the ground to prevent it being tipped over. The documents fail to mention how much it would cost the Force. I think this is not only a fun and good idea, and it might actually work. I mean, if it worked in Dorset, then yeah, I could see this actually working. But if this does become a thing, if police boxes start being used as active deterrents of crime, and they have defibrillators and other such things in them for public use, could we be seeing the return of police boxes? I mean, look, if I was Prime Minister, I would be putting them on every street corner in the UK, because look, they're good for two things. One, according to this, they actively reduce crime, and two, they're a bit of a tourist destination. Whenever I go to London and I go to Earl's Court, I always get a picture by the Earl's Court TARDIS, and I know a lot of people who get pictures by whatever their nearest TARDIS police box is. There's a few up in Scotland, as well as there's one in Newport that I've also visited before. So I think, honestly, if they increase safety and tourism, I'd say go for it. I'd say this could actually be a cool initiative. And look, I think we need a bit of joy in Britain at the moment. And look, let's be honest, a lot of British cities look boring at the moment. So why not spice them up and put police boxes in them? I think that would actually be a really fun thing. It would be a nice throwback, and tourists would love it as well. I mean, look, every tourist gets a picture with the red telephone box. Why not let them get a picture with the blue telephone box that inspired Doctor Who? I think it would be a great idea. Finally, I wanted to end on another positive note. I found this out from Giorgio Boy over on Twitter. If you're outside the UK, the full-length episodes of Doctor Who Unleashed are now available on YouTube. good homework before season 2 starts. Now, I'm in the UK, but I'm using a VPN here, and you can see that indeed every single episode of Doctor Who Unleashed has now been made available outside the UK, which is really nice to see. I would recommend everyone watching Doctor Who Unleashed if you're interested in the behind-the-scenes making of Doctor Who. They're very, very good. I was asking for a continuation of Confidential for a very long time, so that's another thing that I'm really glad that this era brought back, is kind of the behind-the-scenes angle. I always like seeing that stuff. But that's about all we have time for today. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like, comment down below your thoughts, and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.